Once the class had evacuated, Annie sat with her head in her hands. The school janitor, Jane, who was a girl barely older than Annie, began clearing up the mess. Jane seemed curiously familiar, but in a different way from Boris. Annie felt her entire life spiralling out of control. Her secret hope was that she was trapped in a nightmare. She headed to the canteen. Annie was convinced that she would not be back to Valley Lane the next day, but she might as well get a good meal out of the school. The girl behind Annie in the queue was dressed entirely in black. Her eyeshadow was black, her lipstick was black, even her eyes seemed to be black. She had such a quantity of facial jewellery that she clinked as the line shuffled along. Annie met her eyes and quickly looked away. "That was probably the funniest thing I've ever seen," the girl said. "What?" said Annie. "You! Spewing over Mr. Moe!" Annie was initially horrified to discover that she was somehow in line with somebody who had witnessed the incident. Then her shoulders relaxed. "Oh yeah, I guess it was pretty funny. My name's Hope, by the way." Annie blinked. This wasn't the name she was expecting. They sat down together. I guess you know Flossie and that crew?" asked Annie. Hope's face darkened. "Yeah, but no, they aren't really my scene." Before Annie could ask further, somebody put her hand on her shoulder. It was Boris. "Hey, is it Annie? I recognised you from a youth camp a couple of years ago." Annie choked on her crumble. "Boris? Yes, I do remember." "Look, I was wondering if you wanted to come to the Inflame launch tomorrow evening." "Sure," said Annie. She guessed that Inflame must be a Christian youth event. Perhaps it was similar to last year's Ignite, or Spark from the year before. Boris seemed a lot older than she remembered. His jawline certainly seemed more pronounced. "Good crumble, isn't it?" said Boris, grinning. Annie took a second to respond. Yeah, it's so good." "All right, see you then." Hope waited for 2 seconds for Boris to go. "You're bright red, you realise that?" "Am not." Annie stabbed at her crumble grumpily, but a smile leaked onto her face.